on our province.
The honourable member for Saskatoon-Grassland.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, during my question I said carbon capture. It should have been carbon tax. So please make that correction for me.
We will take that under advisement. Thank you for clarifying that. Statements by members. Déclaration de député. La Pointe de l'Île.
The honourable member for La Pointe de l'Île. Mr. Speaker, Pierre Demers, an illustrious physicist and a great Quebec patriot, has died at the age of 102 on January 29th. His scientific work earned him the Prix du Québec and the Grand Prix des Sciences Léon Lortie. He is the founder of the International League of Scientists for the Usage of French and continued to be active throughout his long life. He seized every opportunity to advance the cause of Quebec's independence. Recently, his research dealt with the Union Act. According to his work, he estimated that Quebecers paid up to the equivalent of $260 billion in current money to pay off the debt of Upper Canada. This is something people bring up when talking about equalization. On behalf of the Bloc Québécois, I wish to offer my sincere condolences to Pierre Demers' loved ones. This great Quebecer will be missed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to recognize Black History Month. It has been more than 20 years since the Parliament of Canada proclaimed February to celebrate the many men and women of African and Caribbean descent who helped shape the social, cultural, and economic fabric of our country. I would like to acknowledge one organization in my riding, the Vaughan African Canadian Association, which provides innovative programs and services for African Caribbean Canadians in York Region. Under the leadership of Executive Director Shernette Martin, who was named as one of 100 accomplished Black Canadian women, the association is helping to raise awareness of the significant contributions of the Black community. VACA was founded with a common goal of giving back and working to provide a better future for youth. During February and beyond, I encourage all members and Canadians to celebrate Black history. Mr. Speaker, diversity is our strength. Thank you.
The honourable member for Souris Moose Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize some of my young constituents who have been chosen to travel to Florida at the end of this month as part of the Southern Saskatchewan Selects football program. Skylar Patterson, Chase Fillmore, Keith Aylen, Tiki Umbach, Chase Cuthbert, Clay Gust, Blair Gust, Alexander Shane, all from Weyburn, and James Nibbs, Hunter Eagles, Lucas Rooks, and Chayton Fornwell from Estevan have all been selected for a variety of age groups to participate. All of these athletes have been training hard throughout this year to earn this honor. The Southern Saskatchewan Selects have been competing against players from the United States in international championships for 5 years in a row. The players will also receive high-level coaching while in Florida to help improve their skills. Congratulations to all the participants, hopefully our future riders, and best of luck for the championship game.
The honourable member for Egmont.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize Theresa Arsenault, a woman in my riding who has spent more than 20 years caring for people with intellectual disabilities. In 1984, Theresa quit her job to care for her daughter, Lisa, who has Down syndrome. In 1996, Theresa applied to provide room and board, supervision and support to other individuals with disabilities in the area. Since then, she has housed more than a dozen people in her own home. One for more than 20 years, another for 14 years, and another for 10. Theresa is paid only enough to provide food and clothing to her residents, but she says that she has never thought of it as work. In her 20 years of service, she has had only 3 weekends off. In recognition of her tireless work, Theresa was recently given the Community Inclusion Pioneer Award. Congratulations and thank you, Theresa Arsenault.
The honourable member for Regina Louvain.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal government recently approved 2 major pipeline projects without knowing where or how the pipe would be produced. Making a ton of steel in China and shipping it here emits 5 times as much carbon as making it at the Evraz steel mill in Regina. Unlike imported pipe, we can test Canadian-made pipe throughout the manufacturing process. Fortunately, Enbridge will use pipe made in Regina for its Line 3 replacement project. Unfortunately, Kinder Morgan has not indicated where it will source pipe for the Trans Mountain expansion. A new review process for pipelines should consider the pipe supplier's emissions and reliability. Doing so would favor Canadian-made steel and support good jobs at Evraz in Regina.
The honourable member for Gatineau.
Monsieur le Président, le bal de neige débute aujourd'hui.
Mr. Speaker, Winterlude is starting today in Gatineau, Ottawa, and will continue till February 20th. On January 20th, I had the pleasure of unveiling the official program of 39th Winterlude during Canada's 150th anniversary. At Jacques Cartier Park in Gatineau, there will be sled runs and many outdoor family activities. At Confederation Park, there will be extraordinary ice sculptures. At Marion Dewar Place, there will be the Snowflake Kingdom. And lastly, there will be the longest skating rink in the world on Rideau Canal. I urge my colleagues to dress warmly and take the time to celebrate winter in the national capital in the coming weeks. Thank you.
Markham, Unionville.
Mr. Speaker, Kong Hei Fat Choi, Markham residents have been welcoming the Year of the Rooster. I was happy to host Chinese New Year celebration at Angus Glen Community Centre, where hundreds of Markham residents attended. A special thanks to Toronto Chinese EG Arts Centre and Chinese Cultural Association of Unionville for providing entertaining artistic performances. I was especially pleased to ring in the New Year's with our incredible opposition leader at Shan Sham Temple in Markham. I also had a great time handing out hundreds of red pockets at First Markham Place. Finally, this week we hosted an annual New Year's celebration at Parliament Hill, where everyone enjoyed incredible dancing and delicious Chinese food. Mr. Speaker, I'm definitely looking for the next year's celebration. Shen Niun Kwai Lo. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Charlottetown.
Mr. Speaker, our teachers and school administrators play a key role in helping develop our youngest citizens into the best and brightest. They encourage us, they inspire us, and they help us see the potential within. Earlier this week, the Learning Partnership named Aaron Johnson, principal of Prince Street School in Charlottetown, as one of Canada's outstanding principals. Le dévouement.
Aaron's dedication, enthusiasm, and experience are obvious. Under her direction, the school implemented an emergency clothing locker, a breakfast program for those who need a morning meal. She is sincerely concerned with the welfare of her students.
Reading scores are up, student leadership is increased, and students feel more positive about learning.
I conveyed my most sincere congratulations to Aaron Johnson for this recognition and well-deserved honor. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Winnipeg North.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, a few weeks ago I was in the Philippines with my daughter Cindy, who happens to be my local MLA. We were able to visit a number of communities inside and outside of Manila, and wherever we went, we would see the ever so popular restaurant known as Jollibee. If you can imagine what McDonald's and KFC is to Canada, then you can imagine what Jollibee is to the Philippines. Well, Mr. Speaker, you no longer have to travel to the Philippines to check out Jollibees. You can now come to Winnipeg to get that experience. Last week, while on his cross-Canada town hall tour, the Prime Minister was in Winnipeg. Mr. Speaker, he took the time to join me at Jollibee's as he met with staff, chatted with customers, and of course there were pictures too. I know the Prime Minister enjoyed his experience at Jollibee's. The good news does not stop there, Mr. Speaker, as later this year Winnipeg will be getting its second franchise. Jollibee coming to Canada is a reflection of Canada's diversity, and I am proud of the fact that Winnipeg was chosen as the first franchise location. I choose to believe it is because of one of our greatest strengths, that being our rich Canadian Filipino heritage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Yellowhead.
Mr. Speaker, not only is 2017 our nation's 150th birthday, but it is also an important milestone for communities in my riding. On January 1st, the village of Thorsby was officially recognized as a town. As many rural municipalities are losing residents due to urban centres, I am proud to see the growth of this community and look forward to the positive impacts it will continue to bring to the surrounding areas. Also in 2017, the town of Drayton Valley is celebrating its own birthday, marking 60 years. This town has been a leader in oil and gas development, as well as a trailblazer in sustainability and environmental responsibility. As we celebrate Canada's birthday, let's not forget the people and communities whose successes have made our 150th milestone a reality. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Longueuil-Charlemagne. Mr. Speaker, as the Member of Parliament for Longueuil-Charlemagne, I rise today to mark the retirement of an exceptional woman who, through her community commitment, ensured the welfare of many citizens and families in our riding. On December 31st, Ms. Danielle Lavigne passed the torch after 27 years of faithful service at the helm of La Mosaïque, an organization that strengthens the social fabric of the area of Longueuil. Through her passion and leadership, Ms. Lavigne contributed to making La Mosaïque an essential service for the improvement of living conditions for less fortunate citizens. Our heartfelt thanks to Ms. Lavigne for everything she's done in our community. I wish her a very happy, well-deserved retirement. Thank you.
Member for Spadina, Fort York.
Mr. Speaker, insulting people because of where they come from is not just bad manners, it's wrong. So why are people of Toronto treated this way? Some members use Bay Street and hurl it around like an insult. In my riding, Bay Street is home to seniors, shopkeepers, unionized workers, senior citizens, and a few corporate giants. But sneering at people because of what street they come from is just plain awful. Recently, a different member of this chamber suggested that people in Toronto have no sense of community, that effectively we're bad neighbors. That's mean, it's silly, and it's wrong. Nobody in this House should look down their nose at people just because of what part of the country they come from, regardless of whether it's a town, a region, or a province. I'm proud to represent the good people of Toronto in this House. I love to call it home. And let me tell you, we're all good people. Many of us come from your hometown. Whether it's shoveling each other's snow, whether it's giving gifts to the kid next door, we are a city full of great neighbors. And even if all you need is a cup of sugar, trust me, knock on the door next door, you will find some sweetness. Insulting people because they come from Toronto is not just bad leadership, it's bad politics. And if someone's giving you that advice, sorry, I wrote this last night. Thank you.
The honourable member for Central Okanagan, Similkameen Nicola.
Mr. Speaker, this week at the Finance Committee, we heard alarming news that part of the Liberal government imposed changes to mortgage regulations is that refinancing a mortgage will no longer be CMHC insurable. What this means is that if you are refinancing your home to access your equity, the cost of doing that are going to greatly increase as a result of much higher interest rates. At committee, we heard that Canadians refinance for many reasons: to invest in a small business, home renovations, to buy out a spouse at divorce, long labor strikes or lockouts, unemployment, debt consolidation, and more. Even the Liberals' own witnesses chastise this damaging new policy that will harm middle-class Canadians. Fortunately enough, Liberal members of the Finance Committee voted with the official opposition to bring the Finance Minister before the committee so that he can explain why he thinks middle-class Canadians should pay higher interest costs when they need to access their home equity. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Moncton, Riverview, Dieppe.
Mr. Speaker, it is my privilege today to draw your attention to an inspiring example, Becca Schofield, a 17-year-old from Riverview, New Brunswick, who has battled brain cancer for 2 years. Becca, a generous, vibrant, and joyful young woman, is setting an example that is catching across the globe. In a spirit that most of us can only hope to emulate, she is encouraging people to spread acts of kindness and post them on social media using the hashtag Becca told me to. When Becca had every right to think of herself, she chose to think of others. Where many would be bitter, she chose hope. And where many might look inward, Becca started a movement that uplifted people around the world. In honor of Becca's inspirational example, let us all recognize the lasting impact of her compassion and her humanity, and let us recommit ourselves to the essential work of creating a future free of cancer. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Rimouski-Neigette, Témiscouata-les-Basques. In each of our ridings, there are exceptional people that we have an opportunity to meet and frequent, and it is a great honor. It's such a person I want to discuss today. On January 22nd, Mr. Joseph Bérubé died in Rimouski at 97. As a notary, he practiced for over 72 years until the last moments of his life with 2 consecutive careers. He's a wonderful example of generosity, humility, and commitment. Despite the death of his wife in 2006 and that of his son in 2007, he continued to volunteer with various organizations, especially those that help the most vulnerable in our seniors. He helped acquire a building to house the activities of the Cercle Culturel de l'Amitié de Rimouski, an organization that offers activities 7 days a week. I had the opportunity to know this man, and I want to pay tribute to him in this house so that his memory is never forgotten, and I hope that we will all remember this uncommon person.
Carlton Trail, Eagle Creek.
Mr. Speaker, February 1st to the 7th is Eating Disorder Awareness Week. Eating disorder groups across the country are carrying out awareness-raising and educational activities in their communities. They have created the hashtag Not a Choice, EDAW 2017, and in French, SEMTA 2017. It is through open, supportive dialogue that we can help break the shame, stigma, and silence that affect nearly 1 million Canadians living with a diagnosed eating disorder and the millions of others struggling with food and weight preoccupation. Last month, I had the honor of touring the Bridgepoint Centre for Eating Disorders, located in Milton, Saskatchewan, in my riding. It was a pleasure meeting with staff and board members to learn about the very important work they do. Through you, Mr. Speaker, I encourage all my colleagues in this place to help raise awareness of eating disorders during this week. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Winnipeg South.
Mr. Speaker, this past Saturday was the beginning of the Lunar New Year, and I would like to send my best wishes to all those of Chinese, Korean, and Vietnamese heritage celebrating in Winnipeg South and across Canada. For many, the Lunar New Year is the most important and festive holiday of the year, a time to gather with family and friends. During this week's celebrations, we welcome the arrival of the Year of the Rooster. The rooster symbolizes honesty, brightness, and ambition, and I hope the year is filled with these outstanding attributes. I would like to recognize the numerous community groups and associations in Winnipeg who have invited me to join their celebrations. May the upcoming year bring you and your loved ones peace, prosperity, good health, and great happiness. Xin Yan Kuai Le, Gong Hei Fat Choi. Happy Year of the Rooster.
Oral questions, question orale. The honourable member for Portage-Lisker.
This week, I asked the finance minister if he was willing to adjust some of his policies, his high tax and high spend policies, in order to adjust to the new reality in the United States. The United States, under the new administration, is cutting taxes, decreasing regulation. Mr. Speaker, they are committed to no carbon tax. Instead of the finance minister answering that question, he talked about Canada-U.S. relations. And so I ask again, not in terms of Canada-U.S. relations, but in terms of fiscal policy, what is this government prepared to do in order to keep Canada competitive with the U.S.?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to thank my honourable colleague for the question. Our government has made a commitment to invest in the middle class and those working hard to join it, and we have taken several measures since we've become office. First thing that we've put in place, we have lowered taxes for middle-class Canadians by lowering them from 22% to 20.5%. And I have to mention that this is the party opposite voted against that decision.
The Honourable Opposition House Leader.
I'm glad she thanks me for the question because I'm going to actually ask it again because she didn't answer the question. We're talking about something that just happened this past November, a new administration in the U.S. Yep. Things have changed in Canada, in North America. Is this government able to pivot? Are they able to make new policy decisions in the best interest of Canadians? Or are they so ideologically attached to bad policies like the carbon tax? They've got their heads so far in the sand that they don't realize that things have changed. They need to change policies to keep Canadian businesses competitive. Again, I ask, is there any policy, even one of the policies that they've talked about, high deficit, high spending, carbon tax, will they say no to even one of those policies to keep Canada competitive?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And again, our government is committed to working for the middle class and those working so hard to join it. We are going to continue with our plan that we have to move forward for Canadians. We have lowered taxes for the middle classes. We have put in place the Canada Child Benefit Program that has helped hundreds of thousands of Canadians. We have helped seniors with the increase in guaranteed income supplement. We have a plan. We are moving forward for middle-income Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Opposition House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Liberal plan for the economy is failing. They seem to have millions of dollars for office renovations, a lot of money for vacations on private islands, receptions with billionaires, but nothing for Canadians who are struggling, nothing in terms of support, certainly nothing in terms of policy decisions. When will the Liberals stop doing what is best for the Liberals and all of their friends and start doing what is best for Canadians, for Canadian businesses, families and jobs?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Finance Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And once again, I'd like to thank my colleague for her question. Our government is doing plenty for the middle-class Canadians, and we're going to continue to do more. Once again, Mr. Speaker, we have made historic investments in infrastructure, which is going to be creating wonderful jobs. Also, for low-income Canadians, we have put in place the Guaranteed Income Supplement for single low-income seniors, which in actual fact is going to put $90 more per month for seniors that are going to be benefiting from that program. We have also put in place a wonderful Canada Child Benefit Program that again is going to give Canadians much more money to help them raise their family. We are in the right direction, Mr. Speaker, and we are going to continue to be moving forward.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, I asked two very simple questions to the Minister of Finance, whether he was prepared to control public finances and not increase taxes for Canadians. In response to those two questions, the Minister didn't give a clear and precise answer. He avoided the question, dodged it. They have cut tax credits for families, other things to help families. So the very simple question that I have for the government today is, will the government commit to not cutting additional tax credits that help Canadian families?
The
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and once again, thank you to my colleague opposite for the question. The Canadian economy is going well for the middle class and for Canada. We are going to continue to invest for the middle class and those people who are working so hard to join it. In addition to tax cuts that came into force on January 1st, 2016. Once again, the opposite party voted against these tax cuts, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Many Canadians didn't benefit from those tax cuts that they're boasting about. People earning $45,000 and less didn't get anything. That's the real middle class. So that's what the tax cuts are about, Mr. Speaker. But the reality is that the government cut tax credits that directly helped Canadian families. There's a member for Toronto who says no, but yes, it is. Take up your responsibilities and do something for Canadian families. Here's another question. Will you commit to not cutting additional tax cuts, tax credit cuts that help Canadian families? I'd like to remind the member that I am sure that he wasn't wanting to talk to me, saying you. I just wanted to ensure that that was the case. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Once again, I'm having an opportunity to talk about the excellent program that we have put in place, the Child Tax Benefit. This will help hundreds of children. It will lift them out of poverty. In fact, a single mother earning $30,000 a year with a child under 6, she will receive $6,400 addition in her pocket. So it's through plans like this that we're going to continue to help supporting the middle class in Canada. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Hochelaga. 39% of the vote, 55% of the seats, 100% of the power. On electoral reform, the Liberals are in a conflict of interest. Since the election, they said that they don't have a preferred system to replace the current system, but in this very House, the Prime Minister admitted that he was in favour of a ranked ballot, a preferential system, preferential for the Liberals. Now, when they realized that there was no consensus for the system that they preferred, they simply decided to break their promise. Do they think that Canadians are fools, Mr. Speaker? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our government listened to Canadians. Our government will continue to take measures to strengthen our democracy. Even if we didn't achieve a consensus on an election system to be put in place to replace the current system, Canadians clearly indicated that we can do more to strengthen our democratic institutions. Canadians are proud of our democracy. We will continue to work to ensure that our democracy reflects Canadian values. The Honourable Member for Hochelaga. The Honourable Member for Hochelaga. Mr. Speaker, the report from the Electoral Reform Committee was very clear. There was a consensus for a proportional system. Many witnesses and experts said that that led to more stable parliaments that elected more women. For a prime minister, a so-called feminist prime minister, it's strange that he didn't want to go ahead with a system that would have enabled us to elect more women to the House of Commons. Is the government's priority simply to get more Liberal women elected? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm very honoured to have been appointed Canada's youngest ever cabinet minister. To be here in this House. And I'm also very proud to work with the Prime Minister, who is a feminist, who has a gender-balanced cabinet. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Skeena, Bulkley
Valley.
Valley.
Being satisfied then that Canada ranks 64th in the world when it comes to electing women. You'd think Liberals would be a little bit worried. They're obsessed with their so-called mandate letters, pretending a note from the Prime Minister is more important than the real mandate, which can only come from the electorate and the people of this country. But we compared the old mandate letter with the new one, and there was this very interesting, small but critical difference. Version 1 insists that we will deliver on all of our commitments, but version 2 says, well, the word all is gone. Oh, would the Liberals like to tell Canadians what other promises they're planning on breaking, like they did on electoral reform?
The Honourable Minister for Electoral Reform.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I'd like to repeat in English, I am incredibly proud to be the youngest woman named to Cabinet in Canada. I am incredibly proud to be a woman in this House of Commons, and I am incredibly proud to work with a Prime Minister who is a feminist and who has a gender-equal cabinet. We listened to Canadians, Mr. Speaker. We heard that they are proud of their democracy, and now it is my job to make sure we continue to strengthen and work for our democracy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Skeena, Bulkley Valley.
In their desperate attempt to justify their betrayal on electoral reform, Liberals are reaching for any excuse, however ridiculous or absurd. Liberals say that proportional representation will herald the rise of the alt-right forces in Canada. Well, Donald Trump got elected on first past the post with no problem. And yet a fair voting system is the actual antidote to such campaigns like his or maybe Kevin O'Leary's. Proportional representation elects more women, more diverse parliaments, and forces parties to work together to help bring a country like Canada together. Will the Liberals finally admit they broke their promise to fix the voting system, not because it was a threat to Canadian unity, but because it was a threat to the Liberal Party?
Honourable Minister for Democratic Institutions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am incredibly proud to be part of this caucus that has a good percentage of women, that is incredibly diverse, and that represents Canadians. And most importantly, Mr. Speaker, that listens to Canadians and how they feel about our democracy, which is proud. Mr. Speaker, our government will continue to act to strengthen our democracy. That is why my new mandate letter includes protecting the integrity of our democracy by making our system less vulnerable to hacking and improving transparency by making parties' political fundraising more open than ever before. I will always work to protect, strengthen, and improve our democracy. Thank you.
Well, member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Well, Mr. Speaker, this morning we're hearing reports that some Canadian dual nationals have had their Nexus cards suddenly revoked following the American executive order, yet all this week the minister has told Canadians that the government received assurances that Canadians would not be affected about the United States executive order. This is very concerning for a lot of people that are traveling across the border that use this particular tool to have free access to our country. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm very simple question. Has the minister asked for and received written assurance that any and all Nexus cards will remain valid in light of the executive order?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, there are provisions under the agreements between Canada and the United States for the issuing of Nexus cards and for the termination of Nexus cards in appropriate circumstances. If people feel that they have in fact been unfairly treated by the process on either side of the border, there is an appeal process, there is an ombudsman. Obviously, at a governmental level, we will be working with our American counterparts to make sure that the rules are properly and fairly administered and that Canadians have the access that they are entitled to with a Canadian passport.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
With respect, Mr. Speaker, I don't think that gives a lot of clarity to Canadians who are dual nationals who may be affected by this, who are wondering if their Nexus card is still valid. I'm just going to give the minister another chance to answer the question. What assurances has the government sought from the American government that Nexus cards will remain valid in light of the executive order? And has this been received in writing?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, it was very clear right at the very beginning that a Canadian citizen, whatever their other national connections might be, a Canadian citizen with a Canadian passport has the same access to the United States that they have always had before. With respect to the Nexus card, that is a special trusted traveller provision over and above the passport. We want to make sure that Canadians entitled to a Nexus card, which is discretionary on both sides of the border, the Canadians entitled to a Nexus card are in fact treated properly and fairly.
The Honourable Member for Barrie, Springwater, Oro-Medonte.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week, another Ontario community lost over 600 manufacturing jobs because of bad Liberal policy. It's not a coincidence that GM moved to Mexico 28 days after a Liberal carbon tax. After a decade of Liberal mismanagement, manufacturing is in steep decline in Ontario. Mr. Speaker, when will the Prime Minister stop driving the GMC terrain to Mexico?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for his question, but nothing could be further from the truth. This government is creating jobs in the manufacturing sector, which is the cornerstone of our economy, Mr. Speaker, employing close to 1.7 million Canadians. In Budget 2016, our government is making investments to help position Canadian manufacturing firms to grow and provide high-quality employment for the middle class. We've got an innovation agenda. We're working on a Canadian free trade agreement, Mr. Speaker. We've maintained jobs for Honda in Allison, Ontario, Thomson Reuters, 1,500 jobs, GM Canada, 1,000 new engineering jobs in Ontario. We've got a darn good record, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Barrie, Springwater, Oro-Medonte.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. And obviously the Prime Minister and his government is proud of the 53,000 manufacturing jobs they transitioned out of Canada last year. Mr. Speaker, while the new American administration is reducing taxation and regulations on business, the Prime Minister is sending jobs across the border by increasing them. In the last year alone, the Prime Minister has taxed 97,000 agricultural, natural resources, and manufacturing jobs out of this country. When will this government stop taxing Canadians onto the unemployment line?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, we're obviously concerned as a government and extend our compassion to those impacted by job losses when economies are in transition. But, Mr. Speaker, our government is funding jobs and programs and skills training to help workers and their families affected by job losses. We'll continue to work with our regional development agencies to make strategic investments to build on competitive regional advantages. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The
Honourable Member Richmond Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, here's what the media are reporting this morning. Ottawa's infrastructure plan is in jeopardy. Federal money is not being invested as quickly as expected. The federal infrastructure plan is being pointed out.
Spending lacks transparency.
And here's what the minister has said with his legendary serious approach. This is a remarkable accomplishment. Mr. Speaker, will the minister stop spending taxpayers' money as if it were monopoly money?
The Honourable Minister for Infrastructure and Communities.
Mr. Speaker, as I said yesterday, since taking office, we have approved 1,200 projects with a combined investment in partnership with municipalities and provinces, $14 billion into infrastructure from coast to coast to coast. And I would also like to share with the honourable member that in the province of Quebec, we have approved 58 projects with combined investment of $1.47 billion.
Whoa.
After 2 years of nothing being done for Quebec, we are on the move to get the work done. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Lakeland.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister told an audience in Peterborough that he plans to phase out the oil sands. That was tough news for the 425,000 Canadians who rely on the oil sands and related businesses for their paychecks. But they're not the only ones who should be worried. The Prime Minister's policies are making life more expensive for families and costing them their jobs across the board, not only in the oil sands. Can the Prime Minister explain why he's more focused on phasing out jobs than on creating them?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We in this House feel for people who have lost their jobs in the downturn of the energy sector particularly. The low commodity price of oil has affected tens of thousands of jobs across the country. We will continue to work with the modernization of the National Energy Board to create a better system that will have the confidence of Canadians and get Canadians back to work. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Victoria.
President Trump has issued yet another executive order. This one has serious implications for all Canadian travelers or innocent Internet users. Trump's order excludes all non-American citizens from the U.S. Privacy Act. This is deeply troubling. President Trump wants to subject all visitors to the United States to biometric screening. What is this Canadian government doing to protect the privacy rights of Canadians, and how will these screenings impact our industries that depend on speedy border crossings?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, when I had the opportunity to speak to my new U.S. counterpart earlier this week, Secretary Kelly, I had the opportunity to discuss some of the elements of the executive order with him, and I specifically raised the issue of the reference in the executive order to biometric screening, and asked for further clarification from the United States with respect to that matter. Obviously, it is something they are looking at toward the future, and we want to be completely informed about what they have in mind.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, Canadians are right to be worried when it comes to protecting their privacy. The government still hasn't repealed C-51, which breaches our rights, and now a Trump executive order is putting Canadian data at the mercy of the United States without legal protection. Groups like Open Media and the BC Civil Liberties Association are urging the government to stand up to Trump and to protect Canadians' rights. What is the minister waiting for to take the consequences of this executive order on Canadian citizens seriously?
The Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has been very clear. Canadians expect this government to do two things equally well. Number one, to develop a good working relationship with our largest trading partner, and number two, to safeguard the values, the rights and the privileges of Canadians, and we will do both.
The Honourable Member for Barrie Innisfil.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is currently under investigation by the Ethics Commissioner after promising to set a new ethical standard, proving once again that it's ingrained in the Liberal DNA that government is not for the people, it's for Liberal friends and insiders. This week, they defended a $15,000 gift to their friends at Liberal Party think tank Canada 2020 as an arm's-length decision. Well, the President of the Treasury Board isn't arm's-length, and he gave them $22,000. Mr. Speaker, why won't the Prime Minister just stop giving taxpayer funding to Canada 2020?
The Honourable Minister of Science.
Mr. Speaker, our government values science, scientists, and the important work they do. As I've said before, the Granting Council is an arm's-length organization. It is able to issue contracts below a certain amount. The contract was below that threshold, and the Granting Council took a decision. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Barrie Innisfil.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals keep trying to defend the Prime Minister's law-breaking getaway and ride on a private aircraft over New Year's as a trip to visit a longtime family friend. I'll remind those who continue to defend it as such that the Ethics Commissioner has already warned a Liberal minister that he's not to have any dealings with a particular longtime family friend because of the potential conflict of interest that it could create. Mr. Speaker, my question is a simple one. Can the Prime Minister explain why the same rules do not apply to him?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the member knows very well that this government will work very hard for Canadians. This government will continue to invest in communities to help create the conditions for growth, for good jobs for Canadians, and to support their families. When it comes to the member's question, the member knows very well that the Prime Minister has stated that he will answer any questions that the Commissioner has. We will continue to work with all offices of this place. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, at a time when thousands of Canadians are looking for work because they don't have a Prime Minister committed to the economy and job creation, we all know one person who won't be underemployed. The Commissioner for Ethics and Conflict of Interest has not been this busy since the sponsorship scandal. The two incidents, coincidentally, both involve the Liberal Party of Canada, which is in power. Mr. Speaker, if it's not the Prime Minister, then who in this government will put an end to this elastic use of ethics?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I've already mentioned, the Prime Minister will answer all questions put to him by the Commissioner. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-l'Érable. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As you know, if you pull on an elastic enough, it snaps, and that's exactly what the Prime Minister is doing in terms of ethics. Cash for access funding with Chinese billionaires, private helicopter tours during the holidays, and funding for our friends at Canada 2020. As the member for Beaches East York said yesterday, will other Liberal members have the courage to once again stand up and denounce this use of ethics by the Prime Minister before it simply snaps?
Leader du gouvernement de la Chambre.
The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, the member opposite is mixing things. We are here to work for Canadians. He shouldn't do that. And that is exactly what this government will continue to do. The Prime Minister has clearly said that he will answer questions from the Commissioner, and we will continue to work very hard for all Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Nanaimo Ladysmith.
50 years ago today, the Royal Commission on the Status of Women exposed widespread discrimination against women. 50 years later, that promise of equality is still not met. Liberal and Conservative governments have ignored the Commission's recommendations and cut social programs for women. The result, since 1995, Canada's fallen from first on the gender equality list of the UN to 25th. And still Liberals delay pay equity legislation. How long will this government fail to rectify 50 years of inequality?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Employment.
Thanks very much, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my colleague for the question. Equal pay for equal value work is a human right. We're very proud to bring forward pay equity after a decade of inaction. Pay equity between men and women and fair treatment for all workers in the workplace, regardless of gender, is going to create growth for a thriving middle class. We'll make substantive reform and implement proactive pay equity in the federal jurisdiction, which includes 874,000 employees and 10,800 employers. Mr. Speaker, we are absolutely committed to pay equity, and we'll pursue that and bring it to a...
Honourable Member for Rimouski, Nejet, Témiscouata, Les Basques. Mr. Speaker, as I'm sure you know, it's expected that about 75% of those who own small businesses, family farms, and fishing boats will be transferring their business over the next 10 years and retiring. The problem is that if they want to keep it in their family, well, if they give it to their children, they're going to pay much higher taxes than if they sell it to a third party. My bill, C-274, would fix this injustice. I've received the support of over 120 municipalities, chambers of commerce, and organizations representing farmers and fishers. Can the government please confirm that it will let its members vote their conscience and according to the will of their constituents? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to thank my colleague for his question. Bill C-274 would weaken two regulations which are found in the Income Tax Act. The government is concerned by these changes which could lead to tax avoidance. Bill C-274 would offer a tax advantage to certain rich individuals instead of the overall middle class. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Fundy Royal.
Many New Brunswickers are still recovering from the ice storm that struck our province last week and knocked out power for thousands of people. We're grateful for the tireless efforts of the municipal and provincial first responders and recovery crews, as well as countless volunteers. Le ministre de la Défense nationale.
Can the Minister of National Defence please speak to the efforts of the members of the Canadian Armed Forces in the regions who have been deployed? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of National Defence. Mr. Speaker, I would like to first honour the people of New Brunswick for their courage, their generosity, for their solidarity and community spirit. The federal government acted as soon as it was called. The initial request from the province was approved in 17 minutes, and troops arrived the next day. In 4 days, our troops visited 4,500 homes, distributed food and clothing. They have helped with the cleanup and accelerated the return to a normal life. The presence of Canada's armed forces had a determining and comforting effect on the situation.
For Sarnia Lambton.
Mr. Speaker, make no mistake, the Liberal cash grabs are making things so much worse for hardworking Canadians. The Liberal carbon tax will not just make gas, heating and everything you purchase more expensive, it will also make businesses in Canada less competitive. My riding is in danger of losing 5,000 jobs to the U.S., which would devastate our region. The U.S. is Canada's biggest customer and biggest competitor. When will the Liberals protect Canadian jobs and can the carbon tax?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Honourable Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Unlike the party opposite, we understand that the environment and the economy go together. We're very proud that we were able to come to agreement with the provinces and territories and Indigenous leaders to create, to develop a pan-Canadian plan that will grow our economy, create good jobs, and ensure that we have a more sustainable future for our children. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Elgin, Middlesex, London.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just 2 years ago, while visiting London, this Prime Minister said he wants Canada to move away from manufacturing jobs. Just as a reminder, he said this in one of the regions where Canadians' livelihoods rely mostly on manufacturing jobs, like Elgin, Middlesex, London. The Prime Minister is repeating the same mistake of Ontario's Green Energy Act, which has caused hydro rates to skyrocket and businesses to shut down and leave Ontario. Why does this Prime Minister insist on killing jobs and keeping the rising costs for hardworking Canadians?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister for Innovation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the honourable member for her question. Once again, nothing could be further from the truth. We're committed to the manufacturing sector. It's the cornerstone of our economy. It employs close to 1.7 million Canadians and accounts for more than 10% of our gross domestic product. We're investing in various sectors, including the automotive, aerospace, life sciences sector, digital technology, agri-food. I can point out to the honourable member that we've invested $15 million in Hanwha LNC Canada Inc. in London Fanshawe Riding to expand production and to manufacture a new line of high-quality stone slabs. 85 new jobs, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Banff Airdrie.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Liberals ended the review of rules that would ensure that small businesses like campgrounds would have access to the small business tax rate. Yet when I asked the Revenue Minister about it, she claimed that Liberals have not changed the tax rules. However, just a few months ago, her department did, in fact, change the interpretation of those very rules. Because of this new interpretation, thousands of campgrounds will be hit with huge new tax bills. So when the minister answered my question, was she misleading this House, or does she just have no idea what her department is doing?
The Honourable President of the responsible for national revenue.
The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to ensuring that all Canadians pay their fair share of taxes. We will continue to support small businesses and medium-sized businesses across the country because we recognize the crucial role that they play in our economy. I would like to note that we have not changed the tax rules, and the same provisions concerning income sources continue to apply.
The Honourable Member for Banff Airdrie.
The war on campgrounds continues, and that was shameful talking points. Clearly didn't answer the question. And in Budget 2016, they ended the review that we put in place after deciding that some businesses were too small to be small businesses. And now the CRA has, in fact, changed the rules so that many campgrounds are no longer eligible for the small business tax rate. So she might want to check her facts. This will force many campgrounds and other small businesses to shut down. Wow. So will the Liberals stop unjustly punishing campground operators and let Canadians enjoy the outdoors with all the Liberal red tape?
The Honourable Minister for National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, for my colleague across the way who hasn't understood, I will repeat my answer. Our government continues to support small and medium-sized businesses across the country, and we recognize the crucial role that they play in our economy. And I would like to highlight that we have not changed the rules, Mr. Speaker. They continue to apply, and we continue to apply the provisions concerning income sources.
The Honourable Member for Courtenay Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, this week the Minister for Indigenous Affairs stated, quote, "Negotiation rather than litigation is our government's preferred route to settle these differences and right historical wrongs," end quote. Yet her government not only halted the compensation awarded to the Huu-ay-aht First Nation, but they also launched an extensive judicial review of the decision. Will the minister stand by her words, call off the government lawyers, and commit in this House today to paying out the award without further delay?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Indigenous Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I do want to reiterate that our government will always choose negotiation over litigation. And as Canadians have witnessed this past year, we have made that happen in many cases across Canada. We're continuing to work towards real reconciliation with Indigenous people. That means inviting them to the table. That means negotiating in fairness and in good faith. And we will continue to do that just as we have decided to do with the 60 Scoop, where we have started that process, and we hope that all groups will come to the table and participate so we can have real reconciliation and a negotiated conclusion.
The Honourable Member for Essex.
Mr. Speaker, not only is the opioid crisis taking lives and destroying families in Canadian cities, but this public health emergency is also impacting smaller communities like the ones in my riding in Essex County at an unprecedented rate. Canadians need immediate action from the federal government now. We can't afford to wait for Bill C-37 to wind its way through the parliamentary process. Will this government immediately declare a national public health emergency and provide immediate and direct support to our Canadian communities?
The Honourable Minister for the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are in a national public health crisis here in Canada, and the response to this crisis needs to be comprehensive, collaborative, compassionate, and evidence-based. Building on our 5-point action plan to address opioid misuse, the Minister of Health co-hosted a conference and summit on opioids that resulted in 42 organizations making concrete commitments to address this crisis. I was also very pleased that yesterday at committee, all parties came together to rise above partisan politics and bring us closer to passing of Bill C-37.
The honourable member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, reports of the ethnic cleansing of Muslim Rohingya people in Burma may not get the same headlines as events in the U.S., but the terrible killings and other crimes in that country do require our urgent attention. Burma is a major recipient of Canadian foreign aid, yet the Liberals have barely commented. What does the minister have to say about this dire situation, and what has this Liberal government done about it?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my friend for raising the question and for his concern in this matter. Certainly we share his concern about the violence against the Rohingya people, and we thank him for the question, as I mentioned. We continue to provide urgent humanitarian support in Myanmar and support for Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh, $4.3 million alone in 2016. The government of Myanmar must do everything in its power to end the violence now, allow full access to humanitarian aid, and find a solution for the long term.
The honourable member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I do appreciate the words from the Parliamentary Secretary. But I looked at the Facebook page for the Canadian Embassy in Burma, and it talks about Canadian winters, it talks about the New Year, and it talks about a golf tournament, but it makes no mention of the systematic killing of minorities. Now, the Liberals said when they cancelled the Office of Religious Freedom that all embassies would be promoting human rights, but that doesn't appear to be happening in this case. So will the Liberals commit today to step up and do more and ensure our embassies do more to speak out and to help the people in Burma being murdered and raped because of their background?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Thanks again for the question, Mr. Speaker, and to my honourable colleague across the way. I know he will stand with me and share condolences to the Muslim faith community in Quebec and right across the country today. And I remind him that Canada has stepped up to the plate and is providing urgent humanitarian support to the Rohingyas, $4.3 million alone in 2016. The government of Myanmar must do everything in its power to end this violence, allow full access to humanitarian aid, and find the solution for the long term.
The honourable member for Calgary-Shepherd.
Mr. Speaker, the Paul Yuzik Multiculturalism Award was established by the Conservative government in 2015 to recognize and celebrate the many cultural and ethnic communities who call Canada home. Now, official government documents show that the Liberals never bothered to even give out the award, blaming it on the lack of nominations. Well, it's impossible to give out an award if you never make a call for nominations. Why are the Liberals failing to champion Canada's Yuzik Multiculturalism Award?
Well, Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister for Heritage.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my friend opposite for the question. I will note that this government and this country stands for values of tolerance, inclusion, and diversity. As proof positive, I have been appointed and have the honour to serve with the Minister of Heritage as the Parliamentary Secretary for Multiculturalism. We will be entrenching those values in all of the policies that we implement, including policies that will promote these important values going forward. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Avignon-Lémétis-Matane-Matapédia. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Indigenous and Northern Affairs Committee has heard that settling outstanding claims is an important part of our work towards reconciliation and to correct past wrongs. I'm proud that our government has made it a priority to settle these claims through negotiation rather than litigation. Can the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Indigenous and Northern Affairs update this House on the agreement signed between our government and the Siksika regarding the Castle Mountain claim?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Indigenous and Northern Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank my colleague for the question, but also for the great work he's doing in supporting Indigenous issues in our country. Reaching settlements is one of the most important steps along the journey of healing and reconciliation, and has been established as a priority for our government. In January, we concluded the negotiation with the Siksika Nation, and we are very proud of that, Mr. Speaker. we've been able to resolve a long-standing claim over Castle Mountain in Banff National Park that have been going on for nearly 200 years. We are a government of negotiation. We are a government that really believes that this is a path forward to real reconciliation with Indigenous people.
Member for Prince Albert.
Mr. Speaker, MS Society Prairie President Erin Kahn stated in January that it doesn't matter to her if MRIs are offered privately or publicly as long as patients have access. Saskatchewan currently has an estimated 3,700 people with MS. Instead of congratulating Saskatchewan for successfully providing more MRI options, the Health Minister attacks Saskatchewan for modernizing healthcare services. It doesn't make sense. Why are the Liberals punishing my province for not signing on to the Prime Minister's carbon tax?
Good question.
Honourable Minister for the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We fully support the principles of the Canada Health Act, which are meant to ensure that all Canadians have reasonable access to medically necessary physician and hospital services based on the need and not the ability or willingness to pay. Our government fully supports the principles of the Canada Health Act and are committed to working with Saskatchewan to strengthen our publicly funded universal healthcare system while at the same time upholding the principles of the Act. And the Minister of Health has asked officials to work with Saskatchewan officials over the next year in this regard. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Cumberland Colchester.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I recently met with woodlot owners in my riding in Nova Scotia, and they're committed to help meet Canada's climate change goals through improved woodlot management and also carbon capture. But they're wondering how a price on carbon will help them achieve this goal. Can the Minister of Environment and Climate Change help them understand this?
The Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
I'd really like to thank the member for Cumberland Colchester for his excellent question. Our government is committed to creating well-paying middle-class jobs while tackling climate change. Woodlot owners will benefit from measures outlined in our Made in Canada Climate Plan, which includes increased use of wood for construction and promotion of bioenergy and bioproducts. Provinces and territories have the flexibility to decide how they're going to price carbon pollution, and this can include offset systems for improved forest management practices and the creation of new forests. Together with provinces and territories, we're taking action in each sector of the economy to reduce emissions, drive innovation, and ensure a better future for our kids.
The Honourable Member for Beauport-Limoilou. Mr. Speaker, the Phoenix pay system fiasco has reached another disgraceful summit. Out of desperation, over 150 public servants have used the Access to Information Act, if you can imagine, to learn details about their own pay file. The minister says that she's being proactive and working hard, but clearly it's not working. Quite the contrary, thousands of families are being left behind with an uncertain future. Mr. Speaker, can the minister explain seriously how this doesn't prove that public servants have lost all confidence in her leadership? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Services. We are doing everything necessary to fix the problems with the Phoenix pay system. As the member for Gatineau, like all members in this House, I find that it's completely unacceptable that the problems that we're seeing right now with the Phoenix system are there, and we will fix them. I am a little bit incredulous to see this question from a member of the party that left us this system, and that he's trying to explain. I'd love him to come to our riding and explain why they left us the Phoenix pay system and these problems to fix. The Honourable Member for Joliette. Mr. Speaker, CBC published a Trump team document which details the trade practices that they don't like. Among those, there's supply management, softwood lumber, possible support for Bombardier, Hydro-Quebec's buying practices, and patents. These are all crucial issues for Quebec. This is very concerning, particularly given that every time that Ottawa signs an agreement, it's a Quebec industry that has to pay the price. We saw it with softwood lumber in the United States and with cheese in Europe. Mr. Speaker, the government needs to be firm and defend Quebec tooth and nail. Does the government commit to leave the negotiating table if Donald Trump is unreasonable? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Agriculture. Mr. Speaker, we are working very closely with the new American administration on shared areas of interest in the agricultural sector. The minister will soon meet with the new agriculture sector. Our agricultural sectors are very closely linked, and we are working hard to ensure that our farming families here in Canada continue to prosper. We are working with dairy producers and dairy processors so that they can modernize to be more competitive over the long term. Thank you. The Honourable Member for La Pointe de l'Île. Mr. Speaker, Statistics Canada imagines that over the next 20 years, French as a mother tongue will decline in both Quebec and Canada. Threats to French are linguistic transfers, which are being imposed on Quebec by the federal government. And yet, the solution is independence. Outside of Quebec, the Federation of Francophone and Acadian Communities has said that this is a policy of assimilation, passive assimilation of French. Will the federal government finally admit the reality one day before French disappears? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Canadian Heritage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As this is the first time that I rise in the House as Parliamentary Secretary, I am very proud to be Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Canadian Heritage and also to have responsibility for speaking to official languages issues. Our two official languages, French and English, are at the heart of our history and at the heart of who we are. And we have started consultations across Canada, and we will analyze all of the data that can help us prepare our first action plan when it comes to official languages, which will come into effect in 2018. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Repentigny. After the tragic terrorist attack in Quebec City, we need to do everything we can to ease tensions and denounce those who would raise tensions. Unfortunately, a columnist from Vancouver used the Quebec City attack to incite hatred by publishing a text in the Washington Post where he says that Quebec is a society that, as a distinct society, quote, produces an awful lot of lunatics prone to public massacres, end quote. He says that Quebec is a racist, anti-Semitic, and pro-fascist society. Does the Government of Canada condemn these racist and incendiary statements? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Canadian Heritage. I appreciate the question because this highlights a very serious situation, Mr. Speaker. Here on the government side, and I'm sure all members of this House and all Canadians agree, we stand with the Muslim community. We stand with those who the families of those who lost their lives, and we know that the people of Quebec and Canada are all standing up for values of tolerance, inclusion, and diversity for our country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
C'est tout le temps qu'on a pour la période de questions.
That's all the time we have for oral questions. I'm very sorry. Some others wanted to ask questions.
As everybody goes out silently, I'm sure we can start business. Tabling of documents. Introduction of government bills. Statements by ministers. Reports from interparliamentary delegations. Presenting reports from committees. Introduction of private members' bills. First reading of Senate public bills. Motion.
Motions. The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, I think that you will find unanimous consent for the following motion. I move that this House condemn without reservation the hateful statements made about the people of Quebec by a columnist from Vancouver in the Washington Post on February 1st, and urges the government to defend Quebec's reputation on the international scene. Does the honourable member have the unanimous consent of the House to move this motion? Yes? No? I heard a few no's. I'm sorry.
Presenting petitions. The honourable member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to present a petition for my constituents about the state of our democracy. They say the consent of the governed is a foundational element of Canadian democracy and is the sole basis of the legitimacy of those elected to govern. It therefore calls on us to ensure that